Good evening, guys. Good evening in Ukraine. Good afternoon. Good morning. Good night. I know that people are from different corners of the world are here. I'm so happy that you made it. And we are in our beautiful community together. Let me know if you can see me and hear me well. Thank you so much. And good lunchtime. If we will have some problems with video or audio, it's because of the quality of connection. It's not perfect. I had a couple of Zooms today and had some troubles. So please forgive if something goes wrong. And I am really happy that all of you made here. And actually, this week we have achieved a really big community, 201,000. We have decided to celebrate 201,000 because it's better in Ukrainian context than just 200. Those of you who follow news and context understand. So I am very honored that there are so many people who love and support Ukraine. And taking into account that we are growing bigger and our community actually does a lot, actually does a lot. Drones that are flying, neutralizing Russian military objects, NAFO trucks, lots of support and actions that you take in your countries. So I am very honored and very grateful for that. But this also means that we are becoming more and more attractive to Russian trolls. And that is why I'm very grateful that our team of moderators grew bigger too. Now we have 4, or should I say 5 actually? And I would like to welcome Philip, who together with Martin, Rudy, and Spencer is going to protect our community from the evil spirits from Russia, North Korea, and those who like them. And when I said 5, I actually meant the wife of Philip, because I know that girls rule and she's watching us probably, or at least I know that they are together. They are a great team. So anyway, I think we need girls on the team too. So thank you so much. I'm very grateful to the moderators, and I'm very grateful to all of us. And hey, moderators, and hey, Nail. And I'm sure that Nail will encourage people to like the video, because that's very important. So thank you so much. Yeah, outrageous Otis is correct in the explanation. Unfortunately, in Ukraine, there are lots of new things that we learn. And like cargo 300 is for the wounded, and you can guess that 200 is for the people who lost their lives. That's why somehow we don't have positive associations, and 201 is okay. Thank you so much, Marcus, for the sponsorship and the support. And I think that to celebrate our growing community, we actually have a very good topic. And that is, we will be talking about the collapse and dissolution of the Russian Federation. And I hope I will persuade you that it's not a big problem. Or actually, I think you agree with me that it is not a problem, but there are some people who are still afraid of it, and we have to find logical arguments to persuade them that we are doing the right thing. Greetings to all of your beautiful places. And it's always interesting to read where you're watching us from Michigan. And greetings to Norway, and greetings to Manchester, to the Netherlands, to, oh my God, Natugla Sanmore, I hope I'm reading it right, Oblast, to Texas, to Gladstone, and Liverpool, and North Carolina, and Germany, and Alabama. And oh my God, I love reading it. let's discuss this very important topic and why actually it is very, and we have friends in The Hague, guys. When we, world peace, when we come to observe the process on Putin, you will be the one to host us and guide us. So thank you so much for joining. And hello, AJ. Hello, Carl. Hello, Ben and Carlos and Andrew. And thank you so much for joining. So let's start with the dissolution of Russia, because I like to pronounce that. Francois, Nice and palm trees. Yeah, I fell in love with the palm trees. I have never thought I will like them that much. So let's start with the very idea. And I thought we should begin with the very structure of the Russian Federation. And first of all, I think you know that federation, the very word, means that the regions from the regions and republics inside Russia are supposed to have more freedom and to be almost autonomous. But in reality, in Russia, all the power is very centralized. All the decisions and money are in Moscow, maybe in St. Petersburg, because it was former city of Putin. And all the republics and their capitals, they don't have enough money and resources. What makes it more violent, more sad, is actually the fact that it is the republics that provide Moscow with oil money, gas money, and different natural resources. If you look at this classical Moscow, thank you so much, Patrick, Moscovia, that we call it, when we actually mean let's make Russia small again, we are not exaggerating, it's not trolling, it's the reality. If you find time and you look at the map of the Russian Federation, you can clearly see that these classical Ruski Mir lands are very small in comparison to the rest of the Russian Federation. This country is the largest country in the world at the moment, which obviously proves they don't need more territories. And they need this chaos and troubles on their borders to pressure people inside, to hide problems and losses they have inside, and explain them as foreign interference or war or elsewhere. So, if we look at this classical doctrine of the Ruski Mir, it is almost impossible to apply it to the Russian Federation, because the majority of the peoples, the majority of the republics are not that typical standard Ruski Mir approach. Thank you so much, Dan. And what is actually crazy about all that is the fact that so many people keep thinking that all of this big territory, it's just Russia, when in reality it is not. And first of all, maybe let's start. What would you like to start with, like geography or history? Let me know. And I want to thank William for your support, and London Water, thank you so much for buying me coffees and helping grow and develop. So geography or history? Geography or history? Okay, let's start with the history, because that's what Ultimate Souls set us and I like it. Good. So one of the facts that you can clearly use, I'm a bit of a teacher today, I'm sorry, that you can clearly use in conversations with people. Do you know that Kyiv is 665 years older than Moscow? 665 years older than Moscow. I actually think it was quite symbolic, almost like 666, which means like this is where our troubles began. You know that I'm finalizing, I'm a perfectionist, I'm finalizing the book, I'm polishing it. Thank you so much, Name Or, for the sponsorship. And I have this sentence there that imagine how good we lived for this 665 years without Moscow on the planet. Moscow was on the periphery of Kyiv Rus. It was on the territories known as Zalesye. Not even 25, 665. Moscow was the periphery. It was very swampy land. And that is why quite often in Ukraine we say that Moscow is a swamp, if it's that correct word for boloto. I don't know, do we have some Ukrainian speakers here? And listen to Philip. Please remember to like and subscribe if you're new. So, boloto is a swamp. And many those beautiful like memes and stories that we develop uh, illustrate Moscow as a swamp. But these lands were heavily like full of forests and swamps, and they were not heavily inhabited. And almost at the end of before the start of the Mongol invasion, Moscovia started to shape into a principality inside the Kyiv Rus. And it was just one of many. Thank you so much, Ed. And right now, one of Putin's ideas was to steal Ukrainian history and to pretend that it was all around Moscow, when you clearly see Moscow itself appeared already before the decline of the Kyiv Rus. And what was the reason for the decline of one of the largest medieval states? Mongol hordes. I am sorry, because they were ruining lots of European states. It's not only Ukraine, it's many in Central and Eastern Europe, like Hungary, like Poland, that suffered from Mongol raids. And the only principality in Kyiv Rus that started cooperating with Mongol hordes. Once again, I don't have anything against present Mongol people. You have to identify these are very different people. And hugs to Yorkshire. Thank you so much, Trev. And the only principality, like all of the Kyiv Rus principalities fought against them, had problems with them, and the only principality that agreed to cooperate was Muscovy. And they actually started collecting money and recognized Mongol Khans as their hosts, and they have become vassals. All the other territories of Ukraine declined that, and they liked it because they were getting money by violence. And that is why sometimes even in Putin's speeches, you can hear this heritage of the Golden Horde that they value so much. And it was actually symbolic when Putin traveled to Mongolia to demonstrate that he can visit countries that have signed Rome Statute and nothing happens to him. They have visited the improvised tomb of Chinggis Khan, which once again proves that Russia is very much of the Horde-style organization. And honestly, this is very, very illustrative if you describe modern Russian Federation as an Horde. It's not a classical center of the empire as many want, because another thing that we forgot about, empires are bad. The majority of empires collapsed and disappeared in the 19th and in the 20th century. Russia is the one agonizing, but empires do not live long in the modern environment. But we are observing this agony and collapse, but we have to keep in mind that I like reading bye-bye trolls, Peter. So right now, when we think about old empires, old bad empires, they typically had strong economy. They typically had a lot of money, and sometimes they had a better life standards in the center, so that a richer, bigger country raped, looted a poorer one, but it was common for the empire to be a little bit more, let's say, developed economically, socially. And it's not the thing with Russia. Russia was always dragging below, and Russia was surviving simply by looting, stealing the countries around. And it is very typical for hordes. A classical, if you look at this golden horde period when they had lots of raids to the European countries, what did they do? Did they manage to change anything in these countries? I don't know, to assimilate, to change their cultural identities? It worked only with Russia. With the rest, they were simply getting money, eating, stealing gold, and going back home. Why? Because they did not have enough wisdom, they did not have enough skills to somehow change this attitudes. Thank you so much, Italy. This means a lot to us, and you are beautiful and a strong country. So, it is very important to understand that Russia does not even behave as a classical, like, strong empire. It behaves as an horde that cannot subjugate the peoples it wants. It can only destroy. Because if you look at what Russia describes, that they have taken some territories or they have taken some cities. No, they did not. They have simply erased the cities. They do not exist. You can look at the aerial satellite images. Thank you so much, Sean. You can look at the satellite images and you will see there is nothing left. So Russians will not be able to use it anyway. It's scorched earth. Thank you so much, Dan. Thank you so much. And it is extremely important to understand that this horde logics is also applied to the way they govern each other. This very strong hierarchy, if like you do not question your leader's decisions, and you can have a Tsar for decades, and that's why they actually enjoy that they have one and the same president for like 24 years. Guys, I would feel offended if I had to see just one and the same face for 24 years. Just imagine having your president for 24 years, one and the same person. Only this fact could have persuaded all the global leaders that, oh my God, something is very wrong with Russia, even without any wars, without any provocations, without any disrespect to global agreements and laws. Just the fact that they have one guy as a president for 24 years and he's ready to stay until 2036, he actually changed the constitution to stay at power until 2036, and that is why he applies so much Botox and fillers to his face. Thank you so much, Serkan. Thank you for all the support that you give to all the people. And I love the phrase of Lefty, bільше дронів, менше орків. Indeed. Oh, thank you so much, Türkiye. Ben Türkçe öğrenmek istiyorum. Benim adım Anna. And I also know that Anna in Turkish is mother. I'm sorry, like I don't know how to pronounce correctly Botox, and that's why you always hear buttocks, but it seems to be funny. Yeah, and Orban. It's actually funny that we have a great friend who has the same name, so I cannot say that Orban is bad because our Orban is good. But true, 16 years of Orban's rule is another problem. It's not okay. As soon as you see that someone is at power for so long, it's always a bad sign. Thank you so much, Daniel. I think it's just like a very easy test. If someone grabs power and does not let others come, I'm not saying you have to die after you end your career, but there are other positions, there are other things you can try. Thank you so much, Thomas. You can try out. I don't know, become a NATO head, go to EU Parliament, start a charity. But the fact that they have one and the same president, and literally there are people in Russia who were born and died, and Putin was their president during all of that lifespan. That's insane. But it demonstrates this Horde-style approach. And you all know that in times of Genghis Khan, the territories were very vast. Thank you so much, Blue Eyes, and thank you for giving sponsorship to people. Thank you. So we see here that when Golden Horde, it was also a very big country. But was it a country really, or it was just territories under the control of violence? And what I keep repeating is that it is not about violence. Strength is not violence. It's not a synonym. Being crazy, being violent, being a bully does not mean you are strong. It means you're insane and you're doing some things that others don't do because they are well bred. And that's the Russian approach. But now it's time, Botox for face and buttocks for, Botox. I will say Botox. But I think from time to time I will keep repeating buttocks. I'm sorry. But it looks like he has buttocks instead of face. Don't you agree? Maybe it's my brain just like playing with the language. Maybe it was meant like that. Thank you so much. And remember to like the stream so that more people can join our community. And the stronger we are, the better. Because this world is insane with all the Russian narratives. And greetings to Norway. But now it's time to approach Russian geography. And, in general, what is interesting, Russian Federation, I have to be correct. Russian Federation consists of 190 nationalities. 190 nationalities. Now, let's make a very simple test. People, and I know you're smart here. Do you know any other nationalities that live in the Russian Federation except from Russians? Can you name me what are the other nationalities? And there are 190 in Russia that you know. And I'm sure very few of you will ask, like Buryat, okay. Mongols, they have Mongolia. Mongolia is a different country, but some of them inhabit. But you see, we don't know a lot. We don't know a lot. Yes, Chechen, Kalmyk, Yakuts, Nemцы, right. But out of 190, we know very little. Then, if we look at the number of them using their language, the majority will say that their national language is Russian, because you don't have where to practice your national language, and Russia does everything for you to forget it. You will not find it on your television. You will not go to the university. Philip has an idea. Orcs, yeah. Orcs, just like a very big thing. And so Russia has 24 republics. And it is just like Russian Federation, and Russia is one of them. And Russia is what we actually name as Muscovy, because it was Muscovy, and it was Moscovia Tsardom for centuries. It was Peter I, Tsar Peter I, who traveled Europe a little bit and decided that he wants to rebrand the country. And he was working hard to find the name because Muscovy did not sound persuasive. And they were working hard on falsifying history, looking for the names and coming up with this idea of Russia. Thank you so much, Gary. And cheers with cola. So, so we have Dan is wearing a Brave Raccoon sweatshirt. We have a good merch shop with lots of items that work well as reminders and conversation starters about Ukraine, and you can actually find the link on the channel page. Yeah, Mordor is the Russian Federation. You are right. So we do have lots of peoples who live on the territory of Russia. Russia is too big. I was reading this article and I actually constantly forget how many like time zones they have. Like literally, they have like it occupies 1/5 of the dry land, and it has 11 time zones. Do you really think Russia needs Ukrainian territories? Do you really think that Russia is saving Russian speaking people when bombing Kharkiv that was always Russian speaking? Obviously, no. So 11 time zones. Obviously, they only need people because their only identity is Imperial or Horde identity, and they want to keep. They very often they describe um, that if they lose Ukraine, if they lose Chechnya, if they lose Tatarstan, Iman, hello, if they lose all of that, uh, we will understand that they will lose their empire. And Putin speaks about that, and Medvedev speaks about that. So they are desperately afraid because if one territory is gone, all of Russia will collapse, and it will happen normally. So let's have a look just like at the countries that are inside the Russian Federation. Are they happy? No. You cannot be happy with the Kremlin ruling, and you know that Kremlin is mafia, and they are made of oligarchs who serve Putin. I am sure that Putin is the richest person in the world. I'm sorry, Musk, and many people around him. And they get all of the resources from these poor republics. And republics do not have money that they actually earn, that they actually take out of the grounds that they produce. All is sent to the Kremlin for Putin to have many bunkers, for Putin to spend billions of dollars on killing Ukrainian children. And this may be one of the reasons when they will be dissatisfied with what is happening in the Russian Federation, in the Kremlin and St. Petersburg. Yes, just enough to feed Moscow or St. Petersburg. And that is actually why Putin is so afraid to start a new wave of conscription. And that is why they have invited North Korean soldiers. I saw there was a question, how do we feel about that? Honestly, there are a lot of interviews and videos on my channel about that, but we are waiting to see them. Ukrainian soldiers are preparing warm beds and some food to persuade these people not to fight against Ukraine. They are already very miserable for their life with Kim Jong-un. But definitely that is a very bad precedent that we observe how two nuclear powers are fighting against one that gave up its nuclear weapons for the guarantee of the support from the allies, and allies are afraid of escalation, and somehow they do not see North Korean troops coming to Ukraine as an escalation, but they see Ukraine targeting Russia as an escalation, which is insane. So that's my opinion. Soldiers are not afraid, and the number of the North Korean soldiers that have come is approximately for 1 or 2 weeks, taking into account how many people Russia loses per day. What is bad? That because of this weak reaction from our partners, it may be that North Korean soldiers will come in more numbers. Thank you so much, Pat, and thank you so much, Cindiana, for buying me coffees and for your support. So I'm actually worried that this lack of reaction will lead to more and more units from North Korea coming to Ukraine. And of course, like Russia is already much bigger than we are. It has 140 million people, 44, and we had like 40 million at the best, like 38, and many of them outside in your countries. Thank you for supporting them. So I'm sorry, this is a problem. And coming back to this republics inside Russia. So we have 24. Russia is just one of them, just one, and not the biggest and not the richest, but the most violent, the one that took all the heritage of the Soviet Union, the one that kept all the weapons, and the one that wants to reconstruct the Soviet Union because It is an eternally known fact. It was the same in times of the of the Russian Empire, then the Soviet Empire, and right now with the Russian Federation. It understands, Moscow understands that its success, imperial success, is impossible without Ukraine. They speak about that openly. And it's actually funny because in Ukraine, like, we don't need Russia. We don't need that direction because, I have some people who in comments sometimes say, why don't you want to make friends with Russia? They have big resources and so on. We don't know that. We don't want that slavery. We have been in that prison. Our eternal dream for 300 years is to just live our life. We did not interfere in Russia's affairs. All we want is to have a possibility to build our own country according to our own dreams and desires. And ours belong to the democratic world. When will you finally accept us, guys? When will you stop sacrificing countries like Czechia, like Poland, like the Baltics, like Ukraine to this dark empire when we are fighting for life and for all of these values? Please finally accept us because we share the same values. We don't share a Russian approach that Tsar is good, he has to be strong man, even if he is for 30 years your president with all the Botox. That's insane. And I'm a little bit angry because, there are still people who want to give us to that like orbit. And that's very wrong. And, when I speak a lot with this, is it the correct word to say humanists? Like people who are very kind, people who are very neutral. And they say, we do understand that we sacrifice a lot of Ukrainian people, but by not escalating, by not targeting Russian people, we save Russian people because we don't want to kill them too. So you choose to kill people who share your values. You choose to not to stop, let's say, not to stop killings of people who share your values, who fight for you, for your values, who demonstrate respect to all the laws that were set by you, for the sake of violent people who are simply like very dangerous, who threaten you, who want to like nuke your cities. You save them. That's insane. And why? Because many people are afraid of the collapse of the Russian Federation. Why is that? I don't know. It comes from the Soviet times. Do you remember how President George Bush, the first, how do you say, like junior and elder is not their equivalent anyway. So he was desperate to stop the collapse of the Soviet Union, but he did not have any tools to stop it. He wanted to stop. Thank you so much, Kay. Senior, I'm sorry. Thank you for letting me know. So he was trying to preserve Soviet Union, but it was impossible because the process has already started. It's just like a decay, and decay in Russia has already started. And it's impossible. It's like terminal. You cannot stop it, no matter how much you prevent Ukrainians from defending themselves. Honestly, I'm sure you see that. I don't blame any country because people and governments are different, but I am sure you clearly see that there is a vision like not defeat Russia. Because if we defeat Russia, Russia can collapse. But then what is the option? Like sacrifice Ukraine not to lose Russia, make Russia bigger, closer to your borders. That's the plan. How is it going to protect the territory, the world, and so on? So this is definitely crazy. Thank you so much, Steve, for buying me coffees and your support. And this is like crazy, and we feel that, we understand that. Do you think we don't notice that? We sometimes do have this feeling that people, thank you so much, Neil. We sometimes have this feeling that the efforts to preserve Russia may be stronger than the efforts to preserve Ukraine. Why? Because people cannot imagine life without Russia. It's possible and it can actually be good. But another thing that you perhaps, and when I say you, I don't mean you, because I'm kind people who understand me and actually can explain it to those who doubt and those who don't understand or have some absurd fears. So let's continue, my dear students, with the topic on the dissolution of the Russian Federation and why it is inevitable. Well, first of all, because I personally believe, and many experts, not just in Ukraine, agree that the very war of Russia against Ukraine, against Georgia, of course, always against smaller and weaker countries. It's so funny how Putin says he's at war with the West, but he fights with smaller countries, former republics. I don't see him attacking bigger countries, stronger countries, NATO countries. Like, I don't want him to do that, but let's not fake it that you're fighting with the West. I haven't seen any NATO pilots or NATO soldiers killed. So anyway, the temperature in Ukraine right now is 6 degrees Celsius, and we are supposed to have the first frost tonight. Yeah. So I'm wearing like very cute slippers. Do you want to see my slippers? Just like, it's so funny, like a person talking about the dissolution of the Russian Federation and showing slippers. They are Ukrainian made. So anyway, let's come back to the serious topic. One of the things that many of those, I don't want to be political, but I will say, like Mr. Sullivan, who think Russia can be saved, actually make a very big mistake, because they think that they can do like something to save Russia, when the processes that destroy the Russian Federation, they begin from inside. And you cannot do anything. Like, you are afraid to enter Russian, not just territory. Honestly, people are afraid to enter Russian informational space. Like, no, let's not interfere. We gotta save the zombies. Halloween is over, and they are still zombies. And that is already for decades, if not centuries. So, so it's very important to understand that the processes that lead to the collapse of Russia, they can, no matter how hard, thank you so much, Bruce, no matter how hard some of our partners, some of people who should have chosen us, try to like not defeat Russia, try to save it within its borders, you cannot do anything, just as it did not work out with the Soviet Union. Everyone wanted to keep Soviet Union in place. Everyone was afraid, but it happened because the processes were inevitable. It's just like the child. When it is due to be born, it will be born. So what are the symptoms? First of all, one of my favorites since recently is Russian economy, because there are some very vivid symptoms that it is collapsing, and they are trying to fight the inflation. I totally agree with Yoda. Thank you for your support, coffees, and like wisdom that West has to accept that Russia will collapse, and the only thing we can do to make it safer is just to control this process. And actually, Ukraine, with its Soviet, post-Soviet war experience, can be your best friend and partner, and actually is ready. I can like change a vlog from war in Ukraine into the democratic Russia. Bringing democracy to Russia. So, and one of these very important things that is economy, and we see that with all these interest rates, Russia is trying to fight the inflation. Inflation was always a problem. You know, sometime like when I finish the first book, I already have a plan for another one, which I want to start with my very early memories. And it was just before school, but still, thank you so much, Luke. I remember how it was long queues and like literally no money. I'm sure like no one of you, I mean, from the more or less old democracies can imagine. And when I say like you don't have money, it does not mean that like I have very little money, I cannot go to buy myself coffee or I cannot buy any new clothes. No, it's just like you don't have them. And for example, at work, my parents like were dentists, and they could have salary in two oh my god, tape recorders, because tape recorder, like two tape recorders are the equivalent of their salary, but they don't have money, so they give you tape recorders. What do you do with these tape recorders? You gotta find someone who has what you want and exchange it for what you need. For example, you find someone who wants a tape recorder but works at like I don't know, sugar plant, and you get some sugar, and then you yeah, barter, exactly, barter. And it was like in my childhood, I know it, and you see like I'm normal, and you see how much my country evolved. Like before the war, people in Ukraine lived better than in some EU countries. That's a myth that like all the EU countries live better than Ukraine. Thank you so much, Nigel, for the sponsorship, and to people. So this was the reality. And tangerines were presents for the new year. And like we were not poor. We were what they call like in the Soviet Union, intelligentsia. Like you were either working class or intelligentsia. What is the English for that? So imagine like you getting like two tape recorders and you have to feed your children with that. And what if you are bad with um, what if you are bad with selling? Like I am not always comfortable selling things, and I don't feel okay, like it's bad. No, yeah, middle class, thank you. I also had like my parents, they worked in Africa for 2 years in the 80s, and from Africa, plastic bags. They were not available in Soviet Union. I know it's bad right now, but it was like you brought exchange of your shoes to school, and I had this very modern, fashionable plastic bags from Africa in the 90s. And when something happened to this plastic bag, because you're a kid, you can actually fight with a plastic bag or something, like imagine a little raccoon. That was me. So what did you do? You took adhesive tape and you mended your plastic bag so that you have it longer. So that was life in 1991, 1995 approximately. And sometimes I think that my experience can be compared to the experience of your grandparents somewhere in the 30s. And that's interesting because this demonstrates how bad was Soviet economy. And something similar is actually happening to Russia right now. Why you don't feel it? Because they do not report real things and people do not protest because they have this built-in fear. But of course, if the situation develops as it is, they won't be able to control this inflation. And the price of dollar is rising. And what is more important, you may see that this official price of dollar, you can multiply it by 2 in typical Russian cities, because they always have this gray market, black market, and for example, official banks can stop selling dollars. And because of this panic, because of anxiety, because of your knowledge, uh, because of your knowledge of the Soviet past, you have traumas, and you start buying things like dollar. You want to feel safer, you want to get this dollar, and you pay any money they want. So even the official price of a dollar may be people actually. Russia is good at. They are good. Many of you good people who live in democracies, you imagine that a president or a minister of finance can lie that much. And in Russia, it is indeed a natural phenomenon. It is a national tradition. They do it all the time. And for you, it may seem like, but the president reported. But no, it's a Russian dictator. It's a criminal. And no, my parents always wanted to return back. They never considered leaving the country. And they were also very close to their parents, like we are a very cordial family. Please like the video. I'm very grateful for that and all the beautiful community of us. So I love it that in Ukraine, in Moldova, in Georgia, those republics, Soviet republics that were occupied by communists, managed to escape, and they are actually looking very attentively at various movements that are right now happening, and how can we actually help them. I'm sorry if the video is freezing. It's perhaps of some problem, but I hope it will return back to normal. So if we look at these classical scenarios of the dissolution of Russia, we may say that number one reason may be a coup in the Kremlin. Another important reminder that you have to keep in mind that quite often Russia is always abnormal and it collapses very quickly. And it happens faster than in any other country. Like in some like countries, you will observe it's coming slowly and so on. But in Russia, it can happen like overnight, that you wake up and like there is no Putin, there is someone worse. But a coup is real. And for example, if they start fighting in the Kremlin for the power, they may have problems, and some other republics may proclaim independence, taking into account that Chechnya, Tatarstan, Sakha were doing that already in 1991. So it's not something new. It's not like this people were always Russians and then you have to persuade them. No, they didn't feel like Russians, and they can actually, they're rich people, they're oligarchs. I do not believe they have some real civil movements, but it may happen that if a coup is in Moscow, they will start reacting and they will start acting in new countries. Another is, yes, Russia is broken because it, it proclaims the idea of Ruski Mir, with this Russian orthodoxy, with traditional Russian values, which is of course fake, especially if you look at the way Putin lives with all of his like lovers and children hidden everywhere. Of course, he does not follow the doctrine of the Ruski Mir, but also Russia is inhabited by 190 nationalities. Among them, there are lots of people who follow Islam. There are lots of people who follow Buddhism. And there are lots of people who look very different from the Russians. And classical Russians in Moscow, in everywhere, They despise them. They are very arrogant. Thank you so much, Rudy. They are very arrogant. They have lots of bad comments. They are racist. Russians are a very closed society that despises any diversity. I'm sure you know that. And those of you who traveled might have experienced that. So, what is the problem? Like, there is one joke that I've read recently, that like Russians were saying that they need to liberate Donbass because there are lots of Russian people, and it is Russian. So it's Russia. So there was a joke that because there are so many Tajik people in Moscow, then Moscow is a part of Tajikistan. And they treat these people very bad. Russia only uses this smaller ethnic groups or smaller republics, does not let them practice their culture and language, uses their work power for very little money. Also, you understand that on the front lines and in this meat grinders, they mainly send different national, I cannot say minorities, these are indigenous peoples, these are separate republics within Russia. So literally, these are different countries. And this is one reason, so that if they, thank you so much, someone, for buying me coffees, if they keep acting like that, they will have like serious problems, because from one point of view, they need these people. They need these people for work because they run out of people. They need these people on the front lines. They use them, and they hate them, which is like all about Russia. So this national conflicts, Russian nationalism, and so on, can actually lead to the collapse and the separation of those countries that feel humiliated. Another reason that many experts agree on may be the war that Russia will lose. And I do our best, and I hope we will defeat Russia. Russia will lose war in Ukraine, and this will lead to its collapse. That would be beautiful. Honestly, if Russia was not supported by China, North Korea, and Iran, it would not be able to continue this war. Honestly, if Ukraine was supported to defeat Russia, we would have already done that, not losing so many people, which is like very painful. And also, what we forget about, thank you so much, Joe, for buying me coffees. What we also forget about is that, like, I love this. A typical phrase for Ukraine is like, we are with you as long as it takes. Like, that's a thing you may tell to an ill person whom you cannot save. And here we see a North Korean minister coming to Moscow, and she says, what? She says, we are with you until victory. So please be with Ukraine until victory. You need that victory just as we do. For us, it is survival. For you, it is the preservation of the world order. And we do need it. We don't want authoritarians to run our world. Thank you so much, Duncan. So Russia did not win in the First World War. Like, it was not a victory. And it led to problems, and in the result, the collapse of the Russian Empire. Then, Russia lost its war in Afghanistan. They spent lots of money, and they did not achieve anything. They killed lots of people, and they need to live. And years after that, Soviet Union collapsed. So I do hope that Russia will lose war in Ukraine, and this will lead to the dissolution and collapse of Russia, which is very likely. And of course, if we look attentively at one more reason that is important, there is no real national idea in Russia. This Ruski Mir, once again, okay, Ruski Mir, I'm sure you know what it is. If you don't know, you can watch on the channel. We have an explanation about that. But if you look at this Ruski Mir, it does not apply to Tatarstan. It will not work in Bashkiria. It will not work in Chechnya. You know that Kadyrov is Muslim. You know that some of them have many wives. It does not go with like classic Moscow orthodoxy. So in reality, there is no idea that can keep all of these republics together. It reminds me once again the collapse of the Soviet Union, because Soviet Union was united by what? By godless communist ideology. When this godless communist ideology demonstrated it cannot work in the real world, they did not achieve communism by 1980 as they thought. The Soviet Union collapsed because what is in common between uh, a man from Tula, a man from Chechnya, and a man from Bashkortostan? Nothing. Nothing apart of decades of Russification. Thank you so much, someone, for buying coffees and all your support. So basically, Russia is USSR that preserved many of its republics that were weaker, that were more Russified, located less in more depressive regions, did not have a long history of independence as Ukraine did, and they did not manage to build like their own independent. Their geographical location is, you see, like those countries that are further from Russia are more successful. We can look at like Poland and the Baltics, they demonstrate superb results, but Moscow is far away from them. Then we look at Ukraine, Moldova, we are trying our best, but we are closer to Russia. And then if we look at those located or surrounded by Russia, classical Russia, of course they have fewer chances, and we have to understand that. What is important, since the 2014, the invasion of Russia, there are lots and lots and lots of ideas inside the Russian Federation about the potential division, dissolution, and some of them are very realistic. There is a forum of free nations that support the idea. There are lots of movements inside of these republics. Some of them exchange information with Ukraine. We support them, and I think it is duty of all the democratic world to support these young democracies inside the Russian Federation, because this can give a chance to the world, and you will still have your gas, and you will still have your oil, you will have better prices, and you will not have a maniac in control of the nuclear weapons. Then some say we are afraid that Kadyrov, a crazy man like Kadyrov, will control nuclear weapons. No, guys, the moment Putin is gone, Kadyrov is gone. Kadyrov is the creation of Putin, and all these insane criminals are the creation of Putin. And that is why, thank you so much, Marcus, again, thank you, and thank you for sponsorship to other people. Thank you. So what is important to understand that the moment Putin is gone, lots of criminals are gone together with him. It's a house of cards. And then if we are prepared, if you watch enough videos of mine and us, the experts on the area, we did not choose it. It was just like a birthplace and experience. And then somehow we can control this process. It's much better. I know that many politicians, US presidents, EU leaders, they are afraid of these uncontrolled things. So control them. Control them. Control the process of the dissolution of Russia. Russia is not a natural creation. It has already started the process of dissolution. It comes from inside. It is the rotten heart that led to this agony. You cannot do anything. You cannot artificially preserve something that is not working, something that is not united by normal things. Thank you so much, James, and thank you so much, Jess. So please, use these arguments when you are seeing people in doubt. It's not that you decide how to save Russia, but by not letting Ukraine bomb Russia, you're not saving it. Okay, Russia swallows Ukraine. Does it become a normal country? In general, I think that's important. Now, perhaps I will answer some of your questions. I have a lot of questions about Georgia. And Bogdan asks, do you think that Orange Revolution is possible inside Georgia? Well, first of all, thank you so much, Cinnamon. Well, first of all, and thank you so much, Kay Livingston, for buying me coffees. Well, first of all, Georgia had its revolution of carnation. It was just like our Orange Revolution, even perhaps before it in time, or at least very similar. And Georgia was always fighting against pro-Russian parties. But right now, these pro-Russian leaders, they are using the example of Ukraine. It was very bad of them to use the destructions in Ukraine in the election campaign, saying, do you want this? So literally, it looks like this pro-Russian deputies and prime minister, they were trying to simply threaten people and saying, do you want a Russian war to come or you stick with us? It's not a choice, it's a threat. What is also important that the leader of this pro-Russian Georgian dream is an oligarch, the richest person in Georgia. And once again, I think it is always a trouble if you have the richest person wanting to be your president. Never accept that. It's always a very big issue. Because I think that this abnormal wealth is always a signal of low morals. I'm not saying that I respect wealthy people, but not the ones who serve their own money. Ukraine also suffered from oligarchs. Once again, this was brought from Russia. Russia is the mother of corruption. And they were just connecting this, since the USSR, all of this electricity, gas, water supplies, they are all united. And for me, oligarchs, these are not just rich people who produce something, even if they are looking for better options, but people who simply sell national resources. They nationalize gas, oil, railway, and so on, and they earn money on that. So these people, they are not free from their money, and they are not free to make choices. And there is a certain moment when they stop being cool, when they stop being free, and they start serving their money, so that you may have less money, but you are just cooler, you spend them easier, you create something. And then when you are a billionaire, what you start doing, you simply serve your money and you don't enjoy them. And of course, something bad happens to your Georgia had revolution. Maybe they will have. Honestly, I think it would be good, because if they stop their Euro integration, this will be a very bad problem. I will not broadcast during the US election because it's not my cup of tea. You can clearly guess that all of our eyes and hearts are now observing what is happening in the United States. We don't want to be the reason of your hatred. We do hope you will keep supporting us, because there are reasons and not just because we are good, but because of the things happening around and promises made. But I'm not the one, I'm not the expert. I can pray during the US elections, not comment on them. But there is another good thing that I'm really happy to tell you. Here in Ukraine, we donate money like crazy. And it's not just about Ukrainians asking money from others. You cannot imagine how much money we give for the army, volunteers, and so on. And one of the common practices is actually to sell people on different auctions so that you can buy coffee with them, virtual or real, and you can buy some celebrities and so on. And I bought one for you, not for me. I bought an online conversation with the author of this book. I know that many of you have read Alexander Pali, A History of Ukraine. He's a great Ukrainian author. He has a YouTube channel where he actually has lots of videos in Russian, but no, not because he's Ruski Mir, but because he actually wants to shake Ruski Mir. And he tells the story, the correct history in Russian, so that Russians can watch it. So I want to have an interview, and Mr. Pali, Dr. Pali, kindly agreed that he will come for an interview, and he speaks English, which is fantastic. So I have decided that we will collect your questions. And now in the community tab, I already have a post of me reading the book. And I invite you to come and leave your comments. And those comments that will get most likes will be answered. I will ask Dr. Pali and he will answer them. Honestly, I am very interested what questions you have. And don't worry, they may be like simple, they may be complex. So do check the community tab and ask your question. And also, if you want to get the book on that community tab, there is a link where you can get it. The electronic version is available, and it is very brief and very interesting. What I like. I don't think you need very complex history if it's not your national history, but to get acquainted, to understand, it has like nice illustrations, and I kind of read it twice. And also my good friend was the translator of the English version. Привіт. So the snow has not started yet in Ukraine. So do check community tab and ask your questions, because both me and the author of the book is very interested to read what are the questions, what are the things you want to know about Ukraine. I think that is actually great. Thank you so much, Rudy. And maybe a couple of questions, and I will let you enjoy your Saturday. But there will be one video because we have targeted Stavropol Krai oil refinery, and I could not keep this information from you. So you will be able to see it a couple of hours after our live. I think that's an important story. No, it's a community tab here on YouTube, not on Patreon, but I can actually copy. That's a good idea. I can actually copy it on my Patreon and my Buy Me a Coffee so that more people can get access and we collect the questions. But community tab on YouTube. My dear moderators, can you actually drop a link to this post if it's not problematic for you? Thank you so much, Peter, and thank you so much for your kind words. I'm not sure that I want to be the president of Ukraine. I want to be like a good writer or a cultural activist. That's my cup of tea. But what I like about Ukraine, that we change our presidents, that is always a blessing. Yeah, and on Discord. So please just share these links. And that would be amazing if like more people can ask the question. Honestly, apart from this, I'm very excited about this interview, but also I am really glad that like to see, it's so interesting to see what questions about Ukrainian history interest you. And another question, another announcement that we can actually say is a celebration of our 201,000 community is the new series that we have already filmed with Sasha. I know you missed him. I was a little bit busy with the book. He was also a bit busy, but now we are happy to continue filming. And we have 3 more series prepared. This will be a new, I cannot select new series. Russian paradox. And I think they will be very interesting because the very first one will be about magical thinking and various extrasensory people that was so popular in the USSR, and how actually this describes the manipulation with people in the Soviet Union and in Russia. But it has so many interesting examples. Honestly, it was very interesting for me to write the script, to look for the illustrations. So this will be number 1. Then we will speak about Putin buttocks, I mean Botox and fillers. But I pronounce buttocks on that video. You have to be prepared, and all the changes like of his appearance that actually demonstrate his insecurities. We're not talking about beauty. We're talking about some mental disorders and insecurities. And also, the third one will be about Putin's fears. And believe me, he has a lot, which is another proof that he's a bully, he is a coward, and he will be defeated. So I hope you will like them, and soon they will appear on the channel. I don't have an account on a Blue Sky. I don't know what that is. Oh, and that is a beautiful reminder that from time to time we have scammers on the channel. And scammers, oh, thank you so much. Rudy has just shared a community tab with the questions to our historian who kindly agreed. So please be careful of scammers. First of all, whenever I address you, check the name. If it's Anna from Ukraine, it's okay. But quite often you may have people like Miss Princess Anna from what they do, they steal a photo and they start demanding people to communicate in WhatsApp or Telegram. I never invite you to chat. We always communicate via comments. I never ask you to phone me. Well, I'm sure you understand that would be impossible to message with everyone or communicate. I value our streams. I value our exchange. I value comments. I learn a lot on that, but I never invite you to chat. And of course, I never ask you to support some causes or win lotteries. Yeah, I never invite you to talk privately. Honestly, that's not my type of behavior in life. From one point of view, you may see that I'm not shy and I'm very communicative, but in reality, I'm not an introvert. I'm an extrovert. I'm fully comfortable with not talking to anyone. I'm not the one. So please, please, please be careful. And of course, Rudy is right. I never post my telephone number. That would be insane. I'm sure you don't post your telephone numbers. So please, please, please be careful and never let scammers trick you. Thank you so much, Edwin, for buying me coffee. Yeah, so please not just ignore, but Leo, you were right. Not just ignore, but better report them. Because they appear from time to time. Our beautiful team of troll hunters does the best to clean them, but sometimes, we may be all asleep and they keep inviting you to chat. So this is really, really important, and I don't want you to be offended anyway, but it's impossible to control. Also, please remember to subscribe to my X. I know it's not a very good environment, but we have to be there too. And whenever I'm emotional, I'm on X. On Instagram, you may see more of everyday life and some photos, some stories. We can also communicate via internet too. And threads, and of course, Discord. So please remember to join. Merch shop is the thing that you can check because there are lots of good items that work well as reminders and conversation starters about Ukraine. Oh, we have Kay, whose job is fraud investigator for a major bank. Any unexpected contact that mentions money is a scam. My God, this sounds so like a perfect phrase. I have to copy it. Thank you so much, Dr. Regan. Thank you. Any unexpected contact that mentions money is a scam. Thank you so much, Paul. Actually, this is so cool that we have so many professionals, so many interesting people. And now I will contradict myself. If I had an opportunity to communicate with you directly in life, I would definitely love that because there are so many people who inspire my thoughts. Thank you so much, Yoda. You are spoiling me. Thank you so much for all the support and love that I feel. I have to be honest. My beautiful moderators were asking me, do we have any celebration for 2001? 201 like numerals, 201,000. and subscribers, and I felt like it's not very festive here because unfortunately orcs are moving really fast. The world is paralyzed. North Korean soldiers are coming. People express concerns. But we have to stand firm, and I hope this is just another period that we have to go through, and some good things will be good. No, I'm not going to make a podcast on November 5 because these are not Ukrainian elections, but I'm going to pray. I've told you that. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for watching my interviews. I'm very honored when people invite me, and I'm very grateful to all those people who who invite and who speak about Ukraine, who support Ukraine. That's a choice in your case. In my case, it's a vocation. It's my like country, and I love it. And you know, one thing that I keep repeating always, that love for your country is real. I have never thought about it that way, but in such challenging times, you start feeling it like it's almost physical. You want to see your street, you want to buy your coffee. You know, like I love traveling. I have been this year, for example, to France. It's beautiful, it's amazing. But you don't feel safe when your country is torn at the moment. You cannot distract from that. It's just like your mom and a beautiful woman that you meet. These are different feelings. And I know that it is the same for many Ukrainians. And, you know, for example, right now, Russia is bombing like crazy Kharkiv. Kharkiv is a beautiful city. They have targeted Держprom. I have shared that in our YouTube community tab too. And it was very painful for me because it was one of my favorite buildings in Ukraine. Thank you so much, someone. And it was like absurd because it's UNESCO protected heritage, and they are doing it, of course, intentionally. They are doing it to demoralize Ukraine. But you know, like before war, Kharkiv had 1,400,000 people. And right now they have more than 1 million. And these are with daily shellings. Russia reached them with guided bombs. Russia targets them many times a day, and people stay there. And you know why? Because they love Kharkiv, because they love Ukraine. And with their presence, with their bought coffees, with their cars driving, with their schools open underground, they keep it alive. Right now, Russia long ago has understood it cannot win Ukraine. They know it. What they can do, they can kill Ukraine. They can kill people, they can burn the land, and then get this empty territory. I pray and I hope you don't want this to happen. It's obvious that I don't want. But you know, sometimes when I speak about Kharkiv, I may have comments of people from the city. And I remember that I was very emotional when I read, like, it was a very heavy bombing day for Kharkiv. And I received one very decent, one very modest phrase, like, thank you for telling about us. And I felt like so emotional because I've realized that these people at this moment may be hiding somewhere in the bomb shelters. They don't know at the moment they write this comment whether their flat is okay, whether their cat is alive. They don't know if they won't be killed tomorrow. And they are grateful that we are talking and thinking about them. So for me, this was like something very strong. And of course, I think that after we have North Korean soldiers on the ground, it would be good to have those who want from NATO countries. I don't mean like professional military. That's what I mean. And they don't have to be on the front lines. They can protect the border. They can maintain the weapons. They can train people, and so on. Yes, I quite often invite people on Q&A format. Well, maybe that's a good idea. We may think about someone But so far, remember to ask questions to Alexander Pali. I have already told him that we have a fantastic community of people. You don't have to read the book, like I advise you to read the book, but even after, like, you may ask a question and then read the book because it's really good. And anything that interests you about Ukraine, thank you so much, Laura. And I have already told him that we have a great community and there will be lots of good questions. As Ukrainian historian, he's very interested in these questions from outside Ukraine, how people see and what interests people. So NAFO Brigade is so cool, and I hope that sometime soon we will have another campaign. So guys, remember to check my new video that will appear an hour from now, where we speak more about geography lessons, because Stavropol Krai was targeted, and also I provide a brief update on this long-range strikes of Ukrainian drones. Thank you so much for all of your support. Thank you so much for being fantastic. I think Philip did great today, and I'm also very grateful to Martin, Spencer, and Rudy, and all of our beautiful people, to Trev, to Yoda, to AJ. And I know that Michael is watching us. At least I hope. YouTube was not kind to him, but we love you. And we hope that soon you will be able to post comments. Unfortunately, it happens from time to time with the most kind and active of us, but sending you love and support. And thank you so much for being with me this evening, and most importantly, for standing with Ukraine all this time. We love you. We are very grateful. Thank you so much. Yoda has officially spoiled me, so that's the time to stop the stream. And thank you once again for everything that you do. And yes, and Miss Philip is doing the good. Yeah, so yeah, I know that girls around the world. I'm sorry. Thank you so much once again, and Slava Ukraini.